I had a hard time picking what I wanted to read for you because I didn't want to spoil anything, but I thought I would read the section where Jax, her mother, Miss Tabbert, and her mentor, Master Leshy, have snuck out of town in the middle of the night, and they are launching the hot air balloon to hopefully see Jax up to the upper realm, which is where the contest will be held. So I will do, this is my first reading. Now remember, Miss Tabbert said quietly, once you get to the top, get out and get rid of the balloon as quickly as possible. We will be well clear of the area, so push it over the cliff and let us pick up the pieces. You cannot be discovered. Jax nodded seriously, neither of them mentioning the fact that, without a way down, this was effectively a one-way trip. I love you so much, sweetheart, and I'm so very proud of you. Miss Tabbert squeezed her daughter tightly. Jax swallowed the lump in her throat. I love you too, Mom. Thank you so much for helping me, and I promise I won't let you down. Miss Tabbert smiled sadly. You never could. I know it sounds selfish, but right now I really wish you had taken up a milder interest, like fishing or embroidery. They both attempted to laugh. Master Leshy cleared her throat awkwardly. Jacqueline, she ventured as Jax turned to face her. It has been an honor watching you explore the possibilities of this world. I have enjoyed every moment being your mentor, and I am, her voice caught for a moment, so very proud of you. Jax hugged her and drew her mother in for a group embrace. Everything will work out. We've planned this down to the stitch, Jax said with forced optimism. Let's get that fire started or I won't get off the ground before dawn. With the balloon laid out and the fire lit, Jax, Miss Tabbert, and Master Leshy all sat on the wagon, watching with unrestrained awe as the balloon began to fill with air. Like a giant beast slowly waking from slumber, it stretched and rose with feline grace. The anchor ropes extended from each corner of the basket, tethering it to the ground. All too soon, Jax was climbing into the wicker basket and making herself comfortable on the pile of wood on the floor. She felt ridiculous. Her mother had done her hair in a delicate plait, and she was wearing a bright yellow dress. The juxtaposition of attire and situation brought a smile to her face. Master Leshy and Miss Tabbert leaned over the lip of the basket to give her one last hug. Now, when we cut the lines, you'll start heading straight up. You can't steer, but it's a still night, so you should be fine. I've included a grappling hook if you need to grab a tree or something at the top to pull yourself in, Master Leshy said quickly. She took a shaky breath before continuing. You can always dampen the flame to slow your ascent and stoke it higher to quicken it. Jax nodded. She had been over all of this 1,000 times, but it seemed to ease her mentor's nerves to remind her. Mom, Master Leshy, I'll be fine. There's no wind. The night is cool. All I have to do is go up. She smiled with a confidence she did not entirely feel. I love you both, and I will come back either with a crown on my head or with an army of guards on my heels. Kidding, Mom, only kidding, she hastened to add. One last tight hug and a kiss for her mother, and the two older women moved to their places by the tethers. They had decided that they would cut the tethers diagonal to each other to avoid destabilizing the balloon. 3, announced Master Leshy. 2, forced Miss Tabbert. The first 2 lines were cut, and the women hurried to the second set. 1, Jax whispered and closed her eyes. The basket tipped slightly, and nothing happened. She opened her eyes in disappointment, but squealed when she saw the ground smoothly disappearing beneath her. She saw her mother with a hand to her mouth, clutching Master Leshy's arm, and Master Leshy waving excitedly with her free hand. Jax laughed, exhilaration and relief radiating from her in waves. She closed her eyes and felt the brisk night air caress her cheeks and hair. With every flicker of flame in the burner, she rose higher and higher until she could barely distinguish the 2 women far below and could only just make out the outline of the wagon. The balloon rose up the cliff face in eerie silence. Only the crackle of flames and the groaning of the fabric met her ears. She saw the dim lights of the town far in the distance and wondered where her farm was. It was impossible to make out much in the faint light of the moon. Scanning the ground beneath her, she thought she saw a small cluster of lights detach itself from the town and make its way in the direction of the cliff. Squinting in the darkness, she could not make out what or whom the lights belonged to. Swallowing a wave of uneasiness that caused her stomach to clench, she shifted her gaze to the horizon. The stars seemed to float down to meet her as she climbed ever higher in the balloon. She allowed herself a moment to purely enjoy the flight, just a moment to marvel at the grace of the giant balloon, a moment to take in the dim glowing line of the horizon far off in the distance and to feel the air dance around her. Then she forced herself to focus. In the dark, she did not want to miss the top, get ensnared in outlying roots or branches, or have her balloon damaged on the cliff face. Alert, she added more fuel to the fire, craning her neck to study the rock gliding past meters from her, wary for signs of change. So that was from chapter 13 called First Flight.